don't think even this aircon's gonna save me. Ah! Singapore is so humid. Welcome to Seen Through Glass. Welcome to Singapore. The Asian leg of Drive the World has begun and is starting in a very good way. I'll be honest, I've had a sort of checkered past with BMWs on this channel. I've never been that nice about them, but that is all about to change because you join me in what I think could be one of the best BMWs ever made, the E92 M3 GTS. Now, for new viewers, I want to take you back. I want to explain my history with Beamer so that you kind of understand my previous rhetoric and why I think this car is one of the best. So when I was like 20 years old, my beloved grandfather unfortunately passed away, but did leave me some money in his will. It was about £6,000 or £7,000 if I remember rightly, and at that time I was a complete buffoon. And whilst I was working and probably had saved up £3,000 or £4,000, rather than saving his money away or investing it into something smart, I thought I'd blow it on a car. So I immediately jumped on Auto Trader and thought, what's like the coolest, most powerful car I can buy for around £10,000 to £12,000? And I found an E90 330i saloon. At that time, most 330i saloons were around the £20,000 mark. However, this one was listed at 12.5 grand. That's because it had 77,000 miles on the clock. But again, I was a buffoon, so I went, what a fantastic opportunity. Of course, called up the BMW dealership, I think in Rochester, which is North England, and placed a deposit and bought the car. That turned out to be one of the best and worst car buying decisions I've ever made, because whilst the car was fantastic and I had amazing memories, and let's face it, at that point in my life, it was an incredible car to own. I was super young, all of my friends were driving around in absolute bangers, and there I was in a relatively modern BMW, and a powerful one at that. I was obsessed with the M3 of that generation, and having a 330i, I could kind of like squeeze my eyes and blur my vision a bit and go, I'm basically in an M3. However, the car fell apart. Having 77,000 miles on the clock wasn't the least of the issues. I had a fuel leakage, I had a brake failure, I had fuses going constantly, my doors wouldn't open, windows wouldn't open, it was a bit of a disaster. Now that wasn't sort of the reason for my dislike for the BMW brand. As I say, that car was very important to me and I had great memories with it. However, when 4 or 5 years later, I jumped back into a BMW to test drive one and potentially think about purchasing one again, I was shocked to find that really nothing had moved forward. Everything felt very familiar to the car that I owned, which was a 2006 330i. And I was like, well, BMW don't seem to be doing anything that exciting. And I have to say, that rhetoric continues to this day. So in my mind, this generation, E90, E92, were the glory days of the 3 Series and the M3. And this particular car is kind of like the ultimate M3 from that generation. The GTS is a super track-focused, hardcore M3 coupe. It was made to go up against. Oh, I'm in a yellow box. Is that a thing in Singapore? In the UK, I'd be getting a hefty fine right now, so let's edge it out of here. But yes, this car was made to go up against the Porsche GT3 RS. Not the GT3, the GT3 RS. This is a really, really intense and focused car. It was also insanely expensive when it came out. 113 or 18,000 pounds, I think, which was basically double the price of a standard M3. I think they were going to make around 200 when they first announced production of this car. They actually only ended up making 137. So it's ended up being a super, super rare car. And so with big thanks to the owner, I am driving one here in Singapore, and we are headed somewhere where I can pull over and get some shots of the car and talk you through it. But on the way there, he mentioned there's a Ferrari collector who leaves all of his cars parked outside his house, basically on the street, and you can kind of view them. So I think that's where we're about to go right now. Somewhere up here, there is a guy. Oh look! Oh my God, it's a Reventon. That was a Reventon. Oh my Lord! I've heard about this guy. He's got an This is it. Look, he's got F40, Testarossa, Enzo, F50, and there was a bloody Reventon. That is mental. I've heard about this guy. Oh my God! I feel like I need to go back and get more pictures. Ah, that was mad. Okay, I've driven down the road a bit because I needed the aircon on. And my God, what a road we've driven down. I did not expect to find things like this in the Singapore area. Right, let me turn the aircon down a touch just so that the fan's not blowing in the GoPro microphone. But yeah, wow. I honestly thought Singapore was just one big flat city. 1 second, because the roads just got epic again. This thing is an absolute animal. Just hanging back slightly to see if I can open this thing up, because you need to hear this thing, let alone see it. Yep, that was me breaking traction constantly. It is an absolute muscle car that turns in like a Ferrari. Maybe that's an overstatement, but still, this thing is just epic. Anyway, caught up with traffic again immediately, because that is a common trait with Singapore, a lot of traffic. And you know, it's amazing the amount of insane cars you see here, and fundamentally they all just drive between traffic lights at 20, 30 miles an hour.
A few minutes later.
Now, as I mentioned, you got lots of sort of visual clues to the fact that this car is a bit special, but it's really what's sort of underneath the leery orange paintwork. It's a really motorsport sort of tuned car, and it's one that's made for the track, which again makes driving it around Singapore slightly pointless, but amazing. So I'm very grateful to the owner for the opportunity, because you can still drop back and do a bit of this. Which is, I guess, straight line acceleration rather than corners, but still a ton of fun. 0 to 60, 4.5 odd seconds, and we're at like 440 horsepower, which was 30 or so up from the standard car. But it's just about the way this thing feels on the road. It rides quite hard. Like, it's, you know, it's still a good road car, but you hit a bump or so and it feels a little sort of unsettled in an exciting way. It's a car full of character, a car that makes you smile so wide. And I'm a massive modern classics fan. I think you all know it. I mean, the 360 is me really indulging in my whole modern classic obsession. But anything from like mid-90s to mid-noughties really ticks my box. And yeah, this has just got so many features on it that just, I think, are great. And it's simple in here. It's simple, it's basic. The buttons do what you need them to do. There's no fancy frilly bits. There's no mega touch screens. It's just a car made for driving. And I think on a sort of alpine road or a twisty road, it must be absolutely epic. And funny enough, the owner of this car swapped his 997 Gen 1 GT3 RS for this, having driven both back to back on a track day. And I can kind of see why this thing might have blown his mind. And hilariously, here is, I think, an E90 M3. What a perfect comparison. But yeah, I mean, that's still a good looking car, isn't it? And that's a 92, E92. How appropriate. But anyway, here we are. A short blast in this thing, but so epic. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you have, and make sure to subscribe for plenty more videos to come.